Standard 100. This is not one of our core 5 that we did last semester, but this is an additional standard that we think would be very useful to other people who might want to learn about energy efficiency, especially if they're looking to do rehabilitation of existing buildings. Wait. How do I go next? Oh, there you go. Cool. The purpose of ASHRAE Standard 100 is to provide criteria that result in reduced energy consumption through improved energy efficiency and performance in existing buildings. So this means that you need to have proper procedures and programs which will be essential to these energy efficiencies operations and the maintenance and management and monitoring. Without these upgrades to like thermal envelopes or energy systems will be very hard to manage. So there are 3 basic definitions that you'll probably need to know if you want to understand more about energy, especially energy efficiency. The first is baseline, which is the first year energy use intensity for the building at the beginning of the compliance determination process. So if you want to, determine what kind of energy efficiency you would like your building to work at, you would first need to know the baseline, and that's your starting point. And then we have energy accounting system, which collects and documents building energy usage. So this is good throughout the building's lifetime. So you know if your energy systems are using the proper amounts of energy that you were accounting for. And then the next is energy use intensity, which is the total building energy use per year over the total floor area. That's a very important measurement. Usually it's in kilo-BTUs per year per square foot. And that's it. Basically, EUI, before when we were talking about energy use efficiency, there are some methods that need to be used in order to reduce energy use intensity, which we'll be talking about throughout this presentation relating to the compliance requirements, which are energy management plan, operation and maintenance programs, building energy use and targets, energy audits, and implementation and verification. However, compliant requirements differ between buildings, as there are over 53 building types and 16 different climate zones that need to be accounted for.
Okay, so the first very important part of all of this sort of thing, like retrofitting and just general energy improvement overall, is to have an energy management plan. So basically, an energy management plan is just when a building or facility manager works to review possible operational improvements with the building engineers and design engineers so that they can overall improve the energy usage through metering, weather reports, and daily data. So some examples are chiller operations, HW reset schedules, and run schedules. So the energy management plan has some steps that are very important to follow in order to see it through. So the first thing is to establish the plan, because you can't follow through with the plan if you don't establish the steps first. Then the second thing is to document the changes that you see, such as in occupants, weekly operating hours, production rates, anything that is a change within the building or outside of the building that can be documented should be, and also should be organized appropriately. And then the third thing is to inform occupants about benefits or essentially efficient energy use. So like how can they do things and participate in things like, for example, having the lights turned off or using less energy in certain settings to allow for more efficient energy use, because a big part of a building's energy use is the participants in the building. And then the fourth thing is to make a training plan for the O&M personnel, because those people are the ones who are going to make sure that the building is running the way that you planned it to. If they aren't running it the way you planned it to, then everything that you put in place is not going to be functioning to the highest extent that it can be. So basically, in an energy management plan, there's some basic calculations that kind of get across the general scope. Obviously, for every building, there's going to be different factors and different things you're calculating overall. But the first one is the net energy consumption. So basically, you're just looking at the ones, which are the supplied energy that's metered in the building, and then threes, which are the excess supplied to another building or the grid. So you're basically just taking everything that you need to use versus what can be generated by the things within the building to give to other buildings or the grid. And then for the annual energy use, you're just going to do A plus B minus C, which seems really simple, but it's actually quite a bit of data, because A is the inventory at the beginning, B is the amount of energy delivered to the building and converted into energy, and then C is the measured inventory of energy at the end of the 12-month period. So that's actually quite a bit of data, but as you can see, like, this is a simplified version just to make sure that you're on the right track. And then the third thing is to record total net energy used as expressed in BTU per year. And most of the time you have an energy manager do that. So they'd be responsible for the policy, purchasing, public relations, and implementing audits. So that's essentially the summary of plan calculations. The next thing that's very important when it comes to energy audits, retrofitting, anything to do with making a building more energy efficient, is the operations and maintenance requirements. So in a building, you need to have a formal operation and maintenance program so that you can achieve your intended energy efficiency throughout the service life. Without this, like I said previously, it's very hard to achieve your energy efficiency goals, because you don't have that day-to-day kind of fixed usage or flexible usage that you put in place to make sure that there's going to be less energy used. For the building envelope, domestic hot water, HVAC, lighting, etc., you need to make sure that everything is installed properly, is being used properly, is being monitored properly. Need to do equipment and component replacements to make sure that nothing is functioning below the standard you've put in place, and then lighting replacements just to make sure that you're not increasing your power demand, because you really don't want that, as it can very much increase your overall usage and decrease your efficiency.
Okay, so energy use analysis is also generally done by an energy manager. They have to calculate these target requirements, or EUIs, and fill in a form. So as mentioned before, buildings are divided into 53 different types based on their activities, and buildings can have either one or more activities. And the target requirements for each building are calculated using this general formula. EUI T1 right here is the building activity energy target values of a building based on its activities, and all these values are already there in this big table. So they're taken from that table based on their activity, and they're multiplied by a building operating shifts normalization factor. Next slide, please. For buildings with more than one activity, it's basically the same thing, but a weighted average is taken of all these values to get the value for the building. So the percentage of gross floor area of each single activity area within that building is taken in addition to the previous values to calculate this average.
So an energy audit is the next one, and basically an energy audit is the key to a systematic approach to decision making in the area of energy management. The primary function of an energy audit is to identify all of the energy streams in a facility in order to balance total energy input with energy use. The four main objectives of an energy audit are as follows. So establish an energy consumption baseline, quantify energy usage according to each function, benchmarking with similar facilities under similar weather conditions, and identifying existing energy cost reduction opportunities. Next slide. So typically, depending on the type of audit, it's determined based whether a building will reach the targets or not, and then that's how you pick the level. So different measures are then required to be performed for each level. But before any audit is performed, you have to do a preliminary energy use analysis, and this analysis needs energy, natural gas consumption, cost data for the last 24 to 36 months of the building. So typically benchmarking is carried out here. So just kind of briefly going through, there's the walkthrough analysis preliminary audit in level 1. Level 2 is an energy survey analysis, and level 3 is a detailed analysis of capital intensive modifications. And at each level, there's like certain things that go on. So for example, level 3, typically it's more detailed field analysis and more rigorous engineering analysis. And just kind of depends on whatever level it is, and you can look into standards determining on that. Next slide, I'm done.
And for the last part of the standard is implementation and verification requirements. And this is where buildings should be able to develop and implement an energy efficient plan in order to meet their energy targets. And this plan should be integrated into the building's capital management plan. And there's two different types, one for energy targets, where the energy efficient measures, or EEMs, will be identified from the building's energy target, and you would create a plan to maintain the building's energy use intensity. And the other one is buildings without energy targets, and this would be the EEMs would be identified from the energy audit within a range of 4 years. And in both cases, the implementation of EEMs should be prioritized in order to take advantage of the life cycle of the building systems and to minimize the disturbance of building occupants. And lastly, the implementation of EEMs. And upon implementation for buildings with energy targets, there has to be verification of the building's EUI, and it will be monitored for a year to demonstrate that energy targets have been met. And upon implementation for buildings without energy targets, the affected end use system should be monitored to show that the EEM energy savings meet 75% of the energy savings that were projected in the energy audit. And that is it for this standard.
Oh no, you did. So that concludes our standard 100, improving energy efficiency in existing buildings. We only have one person who's not from our group here. So if you have a question, Cajun, you can pose it now.
No questions. Thanks for hosting it. I think we should definitely put this online. I think it's a great webinar.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, it's rarely ever talked about. So I appreciate it, especially because it's related to my job too. So thanks for giving me a brief lesson on my own, the stuff I'm working on.
Cool.
Yeah, great job, everyone.
Thank you for coming. Yes, this is we all know this already. So that's actually, oh, here, I'm going to stop recording.